It's 6 o'clock. The April 21st meeting of the Bay City City Commission will come to order. The city clerk will give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And we're tonight going to do a moment of silence for Hayden Davis, the young man who passed, and Pope Francis. After. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Prince. Coakley.
Here.
Bernie Overshaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Here.
Hilliker.
Here.
DeWitt.
Here.
Rumberg. Charlebois.
Here.
Morris.
Here.
Mr. Mayor.
Present. I did hear from Commissioner Runberg. He was going to maybe be a few minutes late. So is there a motion? Commissioner Tenney?
Move to excuse Commissioner Ronberg for his tardiness.
Is there a second? Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Second.
Is there any objection? All right, Commissioner Runberg is excused. We have a quorum. Presentations. And we do have one presentation. It does show two, but the Arbor Day, we don't officially do. We celebrate Arbor Day, but we have lots of trees. But tonight, I'm going to ask Xavier DeGroat to come up. Right up here, sir, right up in front. This is Xavier DeGroat. He actually has an autism museum in Frankenmuth. And so he asked me to do a proclamation. So whereas we celebrate the innumerable ways in which people with autism to our families, communities, and our nation on World Autism Day, and whereas we acknowledge the systemic barriers people with autism face in their daily lives experience, and whereas autism spectrum disorder represents a broad range of conditions that vary widely from mild to severe and is characterized by unique social interactions, non-standard ways of learning, keen interest in specific subjects, inclination to routines, challenges in verbal and nonverbal communication, and particular ways of processing sensory information. And whereas the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has determined approximately 1 in 36 children and 1 in 45 adults are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, it is 4 times more likely to occur in boys than in girls, and is reported to occur in racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic groups. And whereas early intervention affords the best opportunity to support healthy development and delivers benefits across a lifetime to improve learning, communication, and social skills, as well as underlying brain development. And whereas the Bay City Commission recognizes Mr. Xavier DeGroat for his tireless efforts to promote awareness around neurodiversities and commends him for establishing the first Autism Sensory Awareness Museum dedicated to people with autism in the nation. And whereas the Bay City Commission recognizes that each person with autism has a distinct set of strengths and challenges and encourages autism awareness through educational efforts that seek to support people with autism and their families. Now, therefore, I, Christopher Gerard, Mayor of the City of Bay City, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2025 as Autism Awareness Month in Bay City. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Bay City. So, thank you, sir. You want to say anything? It's dangerous giving this guy a mic, but...
No, I would like to say that I please everyone to keep raising awareness just by hiring people with autism or accepting their talents. Don't judge them by their book by its cover of autism. You hear it, people often get slanged out thinking they have impairments in nature, but they don't. They have differences in living as a human and sensory overload stimulation with people being around sometimes that it can trigger a tantrum or social anxiety. So if you ever want to learn more, come to Frankenmuth at our nation's first Autism History Museum that I established 3 years ago. Thanks.
Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have lead lines. Come on down.
Good evening, everybody. Before I get going, I just want to introduce myself to some of you who may not know me. I am Marty Jurish. I am the Water Distribution Metering Manager. I had just passed my 28th year with the city, over 25 of those being with the Water Department in one way or another. The last 7 years, I've been at the position of manager. And as you can imagine, 7 years ago when the city, Bay City, came under the order of the Eagle and their unfunded mandate to replace all the lead lines, put us in kind of a scramble a little bit. But as I'm going to show you tonight, I think we're handling it very well compared to some cities that I know. And with that, I'll get moving. I'll try to go through this rather quickly. I know it was on last meeting's agenda, and if I'll take questions at the end if you like. So just a little bit, obviously our population is right around $32,000. The age of our infrastructure is quite old, as everybody knows. We have well, not anymore, but we have records of service lines dating back to 1872. And my department is committed to delivering safe drinking water and replacing all the lead lines as soon as possible. I know we have the lead lines back to the 1800s because we have the original log books. As you can see, that top book is number 1 East Side. That is the book that I got, and there's the log for the 1872 service. And this was the basis of our research, if you will, into the addresses that have the lead lines and the ones that don't. Then we graduated to the card files, and all those services that were in those log books got transferred to the card files, and then any new services after that. From there, we went to what is affectionately called the Marty Maps. Back in 2010, my boss tasked me with the job of putting pencil to paper and writing down all the service lines in the city, using the log books and the card files, and this became the basis of our current GIS, which we have now. This is just a layer that we have. As you can see, some of the red dots, those are addresses, and you can zoom in on this when you're on the line, but the red dots are houses that need their lines replaced, but we have not received authorization from the homeowner for whichever reason. The blue dots are service lines that have been completed. As you can tell, there is a vast amount of blue dots that have been completed. The green dots are ones that are waiting to be completed, whether through a project or through my staff. If you notice over on the east side in what we call the Flatirons, the big group of green dots, that is going to be our next project area, probably starting later this summer. Just a little graph showing the segments that we have. And again, as you can tell, we have a vast majority of copper lines. Due to our efforts and the bosses prior to me, lead service lines, galvanized and ductile, very low amounts, but they still have to come out of the ground. Excuse me. Just a sample of what a copper line looks like on our GIS. It would be and this would be full service lines from main to the household into the meter. They are represented by the green lines. Lead service lines, these on the picture here are full service lines. They would get replaced from the main all the way to the meter. And galvanized is represented by blue. That is the vast majority of our service lines that we have. Not the galvanized, but the copper, lead, and galvanized. Here's a little illustration of a block on North Walnut that has a good mixture of copper, lead, galvanized, mixture of both. That's just an example of what you can see on our GIS. This, I thank our GIS department. They are fantastic. They threw together this active dashboard, and what it shows is up in the upper left corner, the number of services we have replaced to date this year. Just below that is the number of services we completed last year. To the right of the 140, and these numbers are not up to date. This was about maybe 3-4 weeks ago is when it was, but if I have time at the end, I'd like to show you it live. So completed since 2019 when we actually got really into the mandate, we've completed close to 3,000 services. According to this, actually it's more than that now. And it shows the replacements all time. And then the 3,926 there, again, that's not up to date, but that is the number of addresses that still need to be replaced or worked on. How we prioritize our replacements, obviously emergencies and what constitutes an emergency. We get a lot of low pressure calls, and that's normally due to the galvanized lines. When we get one of those calls, I send out one of my customer service people, and they'll go out and investigate. And if they deem it necessary that it is absolutely unacceptable, well, we try to get them on the schedule as soon as possible. Obviously, we replace during road construction projects, lead testing areas that come back in double digits, and when I say double digits, the results come back in parts per billion. If I get a household, one of our test sites back with 10 parts per billion, they go right to the top line and we get those taken care of right away, and we find new sample sites. How have we afforded all this? Back in 2019, I believe, we got a $5 million dwarf loan, and shortly after that, we received a $3 million grant for a total of $8 million. Back when we got the ARPA funds, the previous commission was gracious enough to give $10 million towards the lead service lines, and we have until the end of next year to spend the entire amount, and I'm here to tell you that we will do that. Exploring additional funds and through state and federal grants and partnerships. Right now we are working with a consulting firm, looking into various foundations that may want to donate to the cause. And to be honest with you, I really don't care how much they donate, I'll take it. And the approximate cost, now it says 30 million there. I'm going to say that would be kind of on the high side to complete the task. Somewhere between 20 and 30 would be right in the ballpark, I believe. ARPA funds, one of the first things we did when we received the ARPA funds is buy this piece of equipment, a hydrovac. And we use this mainly because with the mandate, we were mandated to do an inventory of all of our services. And what we did with this piece of equipment is we went to all of our services that were unknown services. We hydrovac'd them up. We verified exactly what they were at the curb stop, on both sides of the curb stop and in the house. And if we still weren't sure, we went to the main and verified that way. Very useful tool. It's used just about every day. And now that we have all of our unknowns taken care of, we still use it on our current dig-ups. It's a fantastic tool to find other people's utilities so we don't hit them. And we also use it on main breaks too. So very valuable piece of equipment that we probably would not have gotten if it wasn't for the ARPA funds. The excavations reduces excavation time and minimizes disruption to streets and properties and saves costs on restoration. One of the tools that we bought out of our budget for lead service lines is the Cobus pipe puller. We now have 2 of those, and they work very well. And again, it minimizes road and lawn damage during the replacements. Just picture the guys going through it. And this is supposed to be a video. Let me see if I can get it going real quick. It's just about a 1.5-minute video. It's actually pulling what we call a long side service, about 35 feet of lead. The way we do it is we run a cable through the lead service. We attach it to the pipe puller. We attach it, as you can see there, the copper at the other end gets pulled along with it. And you'll see here shortly the results. There you can see the lead coming up, or I should say out. Let's wait for it. This is exciting stuff. You'll see here shortly why we were so up on getting this tool. And to be honest with you, we were the first municipality in the United States to have one of these. I don't know if you can see it, but that's the end of the lead right there. They're going to pull it out.
That curb.
There you can see the copper coming along with it. From there, they just detach it, do a copper flare, and hook it to the Water Corporation on the main. Very, very useful tool, and as you can see, 35 feet of copper in less than 2 minutes. Lead and copper testing. We do that once or twice a year, depending on what Eagle wants us to do. And if a house exceeds the action level, we give them water, at times water, and they automatically receive filters, and then they become high priority sites when they are over 10 parts per billion. Selection criteria again. When we first got the dwarf loans, we did all of our extra long lines, like Green Avenue. The water main goes right down the middle of the boulevard, and as you can imagine, those lead services were extremely long. Circulating lead lines, what those are lead lines, obviously, that connected 2 dead-end water mains. We eliminated those and replaced them with actual 6-inch water main. We also align with construction projects, and all of our educational buildings and schools and daycares, if they weren't taken care of, they are now. Ongoing challenges. Customer participation. Mainly with that, it's getting the authorization forms signed. A lot of that is due to the landlords, especially ones that live out of town. It's hard to get authorization from them when they live out of town. We're trying to maybe throw something together, possibly an ordinance where the renter will have the right to sign off on that. Freezing in winter, we work all year long, unless it's really, really drastic. I think we might have taken 2, maybe 3 days off in the wintertime from services when it was at the deep freeze. And we still have some supply chain issues every now and then. One of the biggest slowdowns for us In the last 3 years or so, we have probably went through half of our staff, either through other jobs or retirement. And my staff went from 12 and a half years experience out on the cruise to 2.5 years experience. So it's a slowdown, but they're learning and they're coming along just fine. Addressing the customer concerns, like I said, some report low pressure. Sometimes even after we replace the service, they're going to have low pressure, and that's usually due to interior plumbing. And that could be just as simple as one little galvanized 90 that is going to clog up the whole situation. Educating homeowners on potential pressure changes and lawn restoration, that's a big complaint that we get, is that we don't come back quick enough to do the lawn restoration. But what we try to do is we try to let the backfill settle, and then we come, like all winter long, we didn't do any restoration outside of backfill. I think either this week or next week, we're probably going to start back up, and if we have to take some out, we'll replace it with black dirt, and we'll seed it also. Looking ahead, we're going to continue to apply for additional funding. We'll implement new technologies like that Cobus pipe puller when we get it and when we can afford it. We're going to increase our public outreach. And on the city website, there are educational videos. And if I can real quick, I'm going to go to the computer. I'm going to bring up that dashboard because I think there's some really good information on there. Give me 1 second. Any customer that comes through or goes online and looks at that, they can find out what their service is, whether it's lead. And on that lead, it'll give you some tips on what to do, let your water run. And again, I give all the credit to our GIS crew. They did a fantastic job on it. And if you can see down at the bottom lower left, those are 5 videos that we paid for last summer through a grant. Just more of a community outreach type thing. They're 3 short videos, maybe 2-3 minutes long, and they're really interesting and a lot of information. That's all I got. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jurish. I believe Commissioner Coakley.
Sure.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Did I hear you right? We have some service lines that date back to 1872. Are those still out there?
I would say no.
I'm just, many service lines.
We do have some that are probably still in service that goes to the probably early 1900s, but that particular one there I know has been removed because the street doesn't even exist anymore. So
Very good. What is the cost of the pipe puller?
that pipe puller, I believe at the time I got it, was about $63,000, I think it was.
And you said you have 2 of them now?
Yes, sir.
Is that adequate?
Yes.
Okay. The high priority sites, about how many of those do you get a year?
Oh, 25 maybe a year.
And by high priority?
You're talking the emergencies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those are unsafe or just low pressure?
Low pressure, which to me is not good for the customer. It's not good for us. Obviously, I want you to use water. If you have low pressure, you're not using water. And also our lead sample sites, or if a customer tests their own service for lead. If it comes up high, then we put them on top of the list and we take care of them.
Okay, so the customers can test them themselves and reach out to you?
There's kits out there, but they have to send them in. That's not something that we do. They have to take that on their own.
Do you have those instructions online for the citizens?
I believe it's on the county line.
All right, very good. That's
The
all I
health
got for you.
department, that's what I was thinking.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Hi, Marty, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Just a big question. Since 2022, I've been asking you when would 224, 234, 11th and Jackson Street, there's a line of homes that were built in 1912, 1908. Mine is included. Last year, even this year, you said that you were going to get to them. So since they haven't been, you haven't done the lead pipes yet or the galvanized. So I'm hoping we're not going to go through the same, issue of not having them done. I know mine at 234 have not been done. So I'm wondering, will they be done this year?
I can't answer if they'll be done this year or not. I can tell you, I can guarantee you they will be done. But as far as timeline, when they fall into a project or when we get in that area, and at this particular point in time, we're not in that area, so that's about the best I can tell you. I mean, they will get done, I promise you that. But if they're going to get done this year, I can't promise that.
The thing is what bothers me is that at one point you were doing homes that were starting from 1960s. It was what was mentioned were the homes that were from 1950 and back, where the 1900s. The oldest homes were supposed to be done first because they have more lead and more galvanized pipes. Is this true?
The older homes do have a higher percentage rate of lead services, yes.
Should those not be done first before the homes that were built after
If
that?
I had my choice, they'd all get done first, but I don't have that option.
So who has the authority to make sure that those get done? Because in the older homes, a lot of children and elderly people live. So I think that it would be more, I think that those homes would need to be done before then. I'm not throwing it on you because I know that you're not the one that has the authority to do that. So where would you point us, the commission, to have those homes put first? Because, a lot of low-income people or people, elderly, us seniors, I'm a senior now. So we would need those done first versus, the neighborhoods with the homes that were built after that time.
I am the one that makes the choice as to what areas we go to, and I try to be fair. I don't necessarily take the oldest homes. I try to get the neighborhoods with the most consolidated amount of lead lines, like you seen on the slide there where the flat irons. There's a ton of lead service lines in that area. I'm not saying your area doesn't. It's just I have to do one area at a time. And like I said, I can promise you that that area will get done. I just cannot give you a date or promise you as to when it's going to get done.
How many of the homes of the $200,000 home rate, how many of, in the neighborhoods that the homes are $150,000 and up, how many of the homes on Center Avenue have been, their pipes, lead pipes have been done? How about the rural areas? Those type of areas, how many of their areas have been done versus the lower income areas where the people live with lower income areas? How many, what is the difference of, are they getting done more than the lower income people? That, because in the census, when you look at the census, a lot of children of lower income families, they have lead poisoning. They have that more than any other.
Well, let me be clear. I'm with you that any lead line in the ground is not good. I do not base my choices on the wealth of the neighborhood because one person is not better than the other. I do not base my choices on what commissioner asked me to do stuff. I don't do that. I pick an area that has a consolidated amount of lead service lines, and that's where we go to. Other than that, it's with a construction project like this summer. We have McKinley going. That's going to get done. So part of your answer to that question, $100,000, $200,000 homes, yes, those services are going to get done before yours because it's part of a construction project. Smith Street, that's getting done in 2 or 3 phases. All those service lines are going to get done because of the construction project, with the construction project. Those are the areas that I target. Those are the areas working with Rachel that we get together and say, hey, do you have service lines here? Yes, I do. Anytime she wants to do a road, just mill and fill, she comes to me and she asks me, do you have service lines there? If I do, I go in and replace them before the road gets done. You asked me about Center Avenue. I believe there's only one house that was done on Center Avenue, and that was a low pressure issue. So we did that house. Other than that, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All set, Commissioner. Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you for the work you do and for being here and presenting to us.
Appreciate that.
No doubt. Just wanted to ask, so you talked about having a brand-new set of staff, basically. Is there something that this board could proactively do to avoid that being an issue again for you?
Well, there's always more money. But honestly, it was just a matter of the job wasn't right fit for somebody, and we had a few people retire. So that was pretty much it. A lot of times, I have a very good rate of keeping employees. So I appreciate the offer, though.
Gotcha. So everybody just kind of up and retired at the same time, understood.
Right.
Okay, appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Charlebois.
Yeah, do you have a record of all the lines, all the service lines?
They are on the GIS and in our files, yes.
So you know where the lead lines are?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all.
Commissioner Hilliker.
So can you tell me about that tool a little bit more?
The Cobus pipe puller?
Yeah. So what was the process before that?
A very dangerous one. We would either trench it across the road, and obviously that leads to more restoration and higher costs. Sometimes we would try to feed a cable through it, and when we did succeed at doing that, we would try to pull it with the backhoe, pull it, undo it, pull it, undo it. A lot of times the cable snapped, and there's no safeguards outside of staying your fair distance away, so that was the way we had did it prior.
So it, helped with efficiency and fastness. That sounds great.
Absolutely, yes.
So I see on there that we had about 600 that was done last year.
Yep.
Is that about the average rate that we're getting at now?
I would love to keep that rate going, absolutely.
I just wondered because I'm doing the math to see, how much
If
longer
I
we
can
have.
keep that rate going, we will be pretty close to done by the time I want to retire, and I would love to go out on that note.
Okay, so if I use that, that's great. What would you say if that wasn't the rate? How long do you estimate? And I'm sorry if I missed this in the beginning.
No, that's fine. Once we spend all of the ARPA money, we should be down to under 2,000 households yet to do. In 2027, the EPA mandated that we now have to go from 5% of the services to 10% of the services. That is based off our inventory at that time. So if I'm at 2,800, I have to do 280 a year, give or take. They're not real solid on that. But if I can do 300, 400, 500 a year, which we're capable of doing, I think my staff could handle that no problem by the end of the deadline. Like I said, I'm hoping to get it completed before.
I mean, this is amazing, and I know that municipalities are having a hard time doing this, especially at this rate. So I want to commend you, commend your staff for getting everything done that we've been able to do. I mean, there's some municipalities out there really, really struggling to do this. So we're doing a really great job with that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Runberg.
First off, thank you for attending. I'm sorry that I was a little bit late to your presentation. I hope I didn't miss the good
problem.
stuff. But just a couple things on here. First off, thank you for fixing my water pressure because my lead lines were replaced and my water pressure is great now. So that's awesome.
Aim to please.
Couple things. One, you mentioned an ordinance adjustment to allow for authorization by a tenant. Is that currently just we have to have landlord's authorization currently?
I do not have language with that yet. I'm working with Eagle and some of the other communities that may have it, and I know Detroit has it. So hopefully by this time next year I'll have that.
Okay.
Not sooner.
Looking forward to that. And then also, you mentioned for high priority sites, you mentioned daycares. Is that where the primary function of the daycare is a daycare, or how are we determining which one's the daycare? Because I know some run
Primary
daycares out of
function.
their homes.
Yeah, primary function.
Okay.
If the home itself is the daycare, or I should say licensed daycare, then that was taken care of.
So it is on the list then, if that, okay. And then the last thing, just because I missed a part of it, was, so was that, to get to that map, that dashboard, is that Public Works, then to distribution, then lead remediation? Is that what you said?
It's on the dashboard under Public Works, water distribution, it's on the dashboard there.
Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner DeWitt.
For the hydrovac, if we get to a point where we're not utilizing 100%, are there opportunities for us to ask either Bangor Monitor or Bay County Water Authority if they need it for their replacements or inventory listings?
Absolutely. Yeah, we work very well with those guys.
Okay, I just know that if we have equipment and we can, possibly recoup some in external, I want to make sure we were keeping our head.
I'd be very open to that, absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Morris.
So I just want to be sure, we have 13 years left as of right now to replace all the lead lines, correct?
That'd be correct. Well, 10 years from 2027.
And after all the funds that we have now, we're going to need $30 million more to finish.
That would be on the high end, but yes.
Do we have any fears or any reservations with us not being able to meet that? Is there any fears of not meeting that? I know it's so far down the road, but is there, when we're applying for grants and funding, does it seem like that seems available to us, at least as of right now?
Well, right now, with the state that we're in, and George could probably talk to this more, but in order to get a DORF loan, we would have to raise our consumer rates. And obviously, we don't want to do that. I know you guys don't want to do it. I don't want to do it either. With the ARPA money, and if we get some more grants, maybe some foundation work, whatever, and with my regular yearly budget, honestly, I really don't think we're going to have a problem.
One more question.
Sure.
Because I know on our utilities, we throw some money in for lead replacement. Is that assisting? Is there a requirement for more?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell me how much you get from us? I know it's in our budget, but
Yeah, it's not much. It's maybe
Roughly.
60,000, George? 300,000, I'm sorry. More than I thought. 300,000 a year.
and there's like the same amount for every household, or is it?
Every household gets charged that.
Okay. All right. So we're bringing in 600,000 a year, and that goes towards lead, specifically lead replacement lines. Okay. That's all I had.
Any other commissioner? All right, thank you, Mr. Jurish. That's why we put our ARPA dollars to work in this arena, because we did prevent a rate increase across the board for ratepayers, which was my opinion, was a fair way to distribute ARPA funds to the whole community, because we would have had to raise funds elsewhere if we didn't do that, correct?
Absolutely. We'd probably be behind the 8 ball if it wasn't for that, yeah.
So, and just simple math, I was doing it on my phone here. by the time the funding's done, it's about 2,000 households, give or take. So it's about $10,000 per house. Is that the average?
Once you include all the restoration and everything like that, by then, yes, it'll be that much, or close to it. Yeah.
Is that a mixture? Because we have our own crews and we contract some
Yes,
out,
yeah,
correct?
that's true.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then now we have a construction project selection, asset management, and funding.
I do have a copy, or I did put a copy of the presentation on everyone's desk. My name is Rachel Phillips, and I'm the engineering manager. And I've been asked to come and talk tonight about our project selection for our construction projects, our asset management, what do we consider for things, that type of thing. So, first off, I wanted to bring up our transportation asset management plan. It is a state requirement now that every agency that has more than 100 lane miles of roadway must submit a transportation asset management plan to the state, have it approved, and require us every 3 years to resubmit with an update. And basically, this is to make sure, the state wants to make sure that we are maintaining our assets efficiently and effectively and using our transportation funding to the best of our abilities. And we do have all of this stuff on our website. We've got the Pazer map, the asset management information, and the CIP. And I'll go over that in just a second. So to develop the asset management plan, there's 6 categories. First, we look at the inventory and the overall system condition. This includes, for the transportation asset management plan, includes streets, traffic signals, bridges, and sidewalks. Then we look at the risk assessment, and this is like where we're looking at the bridges and the truck routes and the emergency routes, and we take a look at if a certain roadway were to fall apart and become to the point that we couldn't use it, what would be the impacts? Obviously, everything would be an impact, but would it impact safety, that kind of thing. Then we have to determine the mix of fixes, and I'll go through that in just a minute. Of course, our funding is always a challenge, and we'll talk about that as well. Once we get these things, we have to look at an investment plan. So we know how much money we have, we know what our critical areas are, we kind of put it together and say, here's how much of our funding we're going to put towards different things. And then finally, we put it together in a capital improvement program. So just to briefly go over our system inventory, we have 3 bridges. Everybody pretty much knows about Liberty and Independence, but I don't know if this will, no, it doesn't work. If you look on, if you look where Independence is, there's just south of that is the Water Street Bridge, and that is on Truman as well. But a lot of people that drive over Truman kind of look at both of those as the same bridge. But Water Street Bridge is just south of that, and it doesn't lift, and the city is still maintaining that. We have 35 traffic signals, and that includes flashers. And looking at miles, not so much lane miles, but 58 miles of major streets and 125 miles of local streets. So that was our inventory. Now we're looking at our conditions. Our bridges are all in fair to good condition. Our signals, half are in fair condition, 31% are in poor. We are looking at that with our budgets, and we are trying to do a little bit more proactive things to upgrade some of the signals, remove some of the ones that are costly, that are no longer warranted, and we're looking at a lot of things on those. So when we get to the condition of the roadways, and I know you've probably heard the words PASER a lot, pavement surface evaluation rating, and this is how we rate our pavement on our roads. And I believe everyone got a map. You got a map for all of the city, and then one that's just a blow up of each of your wards. And it is also online. And online, there's a dashboard, just like Marty was showing you, the percentage of each. You can zoom in, look at a specific roadway, you can click on it, and it gives you the information with that. So for PASER, 1 is completely failed pavement, 10 is brand new pavement. So we go through the ratings that way. And I mentioned the mix of fixes. So if we have really poor pavement, like failed pavement, and we were just to mill off and put 1.5 inches back on it, that's not gonna last. Obviously, we have bigger problems when the road is failed like that. And the only thing that's really effective is a reconstruction. Otherwise, we're wasting our money on something that's gonna fall apart. And what we look at is preventive maintenance. So sometimes we'll take a road that's in fair condition, we'll do a lower expense or lower cost fix on it, and it extends the life. And I'll get into that also in a minute. So our road condition system, it's not pretty. 5% or 5 miles are in good condition. And this was information from last fall. We have 32 miles in fair condition, and 77% of our system is in poor condition. So it's a PASER of 3 or lower. So to kind of explain when I talk the mix of fixes, I like to compare it to a car, and this is my favorite car. But now if you buy a new car every 2 years and that kind of thing, now this is more like, you're my husband and you drive it till it dies. But, you get a brand new car, you still have to maintain it. Regardless of what a great car it is, if you don't put oil in it, it's gonna die on you really fast. So for the comparison, sorry to just read these through, but the new car, the 9 to 10 PASER, this is a new car smell, everything's perfect, and that's just like a new road project. At first you're gonna have to change the oil, rotate the tires. That's still good pavement. And what we would do with that is, for asphalt pavement, we'd go through and you'll see where they do crack sealing. And obviously the asphalt does crack when that happens. So you seal that up, it keeps the water and the debris and the freeze thaw out of it, and it helps it to work with the rest of the asphalt so the crack doesn't get bigger. And it really is a great low-cost thing to do when you've got, a good vehicle or a good pavement, just like an oil change would be. When you start getting in a little bit more time on that, you need new tires, air filters, brakes. Still, it's not very expensive. It's something you do just to keep it going. And that's what a surface seal would do. It's in fair condition. We go in and we seal the surface. We do some low-cost things to make the pavement in better shape. Over time, you've got more miles. You get into when you get down to like the 4, that's in a car, you're talking water pump, fuel pump, exhaust. That's when you get into rehabilitation. It starts costing you money, but it still works. It's just going to be more expensive to fix it. And when you get to, your transmission goes and your engine fails, that's like our poor pavement. And at that point, you got an engine failure. You can make all the oil changes you want. It's not going to do anything. So that kind of explains some of what we do there. So I mentioned capital preventive maintenance. So there's preventive maintenance where we go in and crack seal so that it doesn't get bad, but there's also reactive maintenance where we come in and it's already bad, so we have to go in and patch the potholes or mill a section or something like that to try to keep things moving. Being able to do this preventive maintenance really extends the pavement lifespan. So if we were to look at 25 years of pavement, and we look at, year one, brand new pavement, brand new roadway. If we don't have CPM and we just build the road and let it go, which is what happened a long time ago, within 22 years, that is completely failed, and you have to completely reconstruct it. Now the blue line, that is if we use CPM, we still start at that new pavement. When we get down a little bit, we seal the cracks up. And it kind of, brings it up, but it comes back down, obviously. And we'll do a surface seal. It brings it back up again. And then when it gets a little bit further, we do a 1.5 inch milling resurfacing, which is what we did on Columbus a couple years ago. And that brings it back up. So when you look at 25 years, you're still at a PASER of 7. You're still in good condition after 25 years. Now, if you look at the cost over 25 years, if you don't do CPM, and this is today's dollars, so obviously it's a lot more in 25 years, but if you don't do any CPM for a mile of pavement, it's going to be $4 million to replace that. If you do CPM, you've got a 7, you've got fair roadway that's going to keep going, and your cost is less than $1 million. So I get a lot of questions, and I'm sure you do too. Why are they working on a road that's still in decent shape when we've got roads that are terrible? Well, we have to do this mix of fixes so that we fix our bad roads, but we also keep our good roads in good condition so we don't have to spend so much in the future. It's a long process, but that's what we're working towards, is being able to maintain our pavement so that it's not falling apart without, killing the bank. So when we look at treatment costs, for a crack seal for a mile of road, you're talking $1,000. That's not much. You get into a surface seal, $224,000. If you're doing a full depth resurface like we did on McKinley last year, where we take all the asphalt, same thing on Midland, we remove all the asphalt, but we don't get into the base, it's 1.6 million. If we get down to poor pavement at a 1 to 3, it's a full reconstruction and it's $4 million. So this is kind of what that last graph was looking at, is that exponentially more expensive to do a reconstruct. So that answers a little bit about why we work on good roads. So if we were looking at a 20-year investment plan, right now our system is at a PASER 3.05. So our overall system is a 3. So it's in poor condition, almost a fair. Our current funding that we use for construction, road construction and our major projects, our annual budget for the street side of things is $2 million. So over 20 years, if we spend $2 million a year, we are gonna lose almost a full PASER point. We'll be down to 2.29. In order to maintain the 3.05 that we have right now, we would have to obtain $6 million. and put $6 million into our roads every year to keep the same pavement condition that we have right now, which is 77% poor. If we wanted to bring it up to a fair condition at a 4, a Paisley of 4, we're talking almost $12 million a year to be able to work on our system. I know that's not a pretty thing to look at, but I did find it interesting. Did you get that? I'll have the presentation afterwards if you're writing stuff. So currently, our funding sources come from a few different things. The majority of the funding comes from federal money that comes from through Act 51 to municipalities, and that's about 88%. I think is what that says. I can't see from here. We only 9% is from property taxes, and then the other little bit there is from, turning in scrap or permits, that kind of thing. So from Act 51 and the property taxes, our annual expenses are around $5 million. And, I said that we have $2 million for construction, but this $5 million has to be split over a lot of different things. So road maintenance is almost as much as construction because we have so much that needs to be doing. We've got, street sweeping, we've got the potholes, we've got small sections of paving, we've got patching, all of those things that have to be done, that all goes into road maintenance. Winter maintenance is essential, obviously. That's maintaining our roads during the winter. And there's really nothing we can cut back in this pie chart to be able to give us more money in any one area. So after we go through the asset management plan type of things, we still have other selection factors that we need to take a look at. Our utility needs. Obviously, if we have a water main break and there are several breaks in an area and there's patch after patch, that impacts the pavement as well. And a lot of times that means the sewer's not in good condition there either. So we have to look at our utilities and the age and the condition of those as well to see if we need to coordinate that kind of thing with them. Safety is a big one. I run crash histories in all of our areas. We do field observations. We look at sight distance. We run traffic patterns. We look at intersections and what we can do to mitigate those crashes. So that plays a big part in our projects. If we've got a high crash area, we got to look at, if it's at one intersection, we have to really look at, we've got to be able to do something with that. Intermodal, this is effective transportation for cars, pedestrians, transit, trucking. We have to accommodate all of these on our facilities. Mobility is congestion. Can we get through the city? Are we going to have projects that are going to detour onto each other? Are we going to do work on Vets Bridge right now while Lafayette's closed? No. So we don't want traffic jams. We want to make sure people still get through. So we have to look at that kind of thing as well. Obviously, available funding is always an issue. And we're also always looking at grants. We've been really successful with grants the last couple of years, and it's helped a lot. Some of those grants we've gotten are no longer available, so we're always looking for more. So we're getting down to our selection process. The background, we've already talked about the conditions that we have to look at all of our city assets, not just water, or not just pavement, but also water, sewer, and signals. Every time we look at a project or someone brings us a project or, we're thinking about it, we do a scoping document for that, and I've probably got 10 or 12 of them sitting there that aren't in our program. We look at the existing facilities, utilities, pavement, safety. We look at what should be done with the roadway there, what our traffic control would be like. Can we do this without making people detour? Timelines, when can we fit that in? Right now, I got a grant for Henry Street from Jenny to Vermont. It's a terrible piece of road, but we don't want to reconstruct it and detour it while everyone's driving over Vets Bridge, and we have to be able to maintain that. So that's part of the mobility. And with Lafayette down, it's going to open back up in 2027, and MDOT's going to start theoretically in 2028 on Thomas and Jenny. So when I looked at it, I said, okay, we've got a window of 2027. That's when we're going to have to do Henry. We don't want to do it when those other projects are going on. So that was when we were looking at the grant. I said, I need the money for 2027. It's still a couple years away, but mobility-wise, safety-wise, that's how we fit our timelines together. Cost estimate is obviously a big part of that, so that when we're looking at projects, we can say, oh, this is what it's going to cost. And then obviously our safety. And then we look at our asset management plans. You know, we not only have a transportation asset management plan, we have a water asset management plan and a sewer one. So those three all have to work together. We can't just follow one. We have to make sure that they're all working together. You know, obviously water's not going to go through and replace 6 blocks of water main in the center of the road if there's no other project going on, if they have to resurface all of that or make patches through it. So now we get to the process. This is like taking everything and putting a puzzle together. It's kind of fun, but not really. So again, we look at the location. Do we have census tracts that have low to moderate income? Are there schools in the area? Are there medical facilities? Again, the impacts to traffic and our mobility, our timelines, and what our funding availability is. Along with that is when we get grants, we've got requirements. So a lot of federal grants will only go to federal aid roads, which is our majors. So finding grants for our local streets is really, really hard. We also have to look at some grants. You're not eligible unless you've got high crash location or, you know, that kind of thing. And what's the match got to be? So we have to really look at that kind of thing when we're looking at our funding as well. Getting down to the end, I promise. So for 2025, this is our CIP. It's really tiny on your sheets, but we did send out a really nice sheet that Allison put together that had all our projects for this year. We've got 12 project locations, and streets, water, sewer put together, we've invested $7.1 million. The Marquette TIFA has been really helpful with a lot of our projects in that area, and they've invested $1.2 million. We've gotten $4.5 million in state and federal grants, and that is just for the transportation things. So, you know, we were talking about $2 million, well, we've doubled that, and just with grants this year. And the total project cost of those 12 projects comes out to about $12.8 million. When we get to our further out years, 26 through 2031, we go out 7 years, so 6 years, sorry. These are tentative projects. Obviously, we don't know what the costs are gonna do. We had the same costs, just a little bit of, you know, of inflation over time, and then all of a sudden we had crazy issues. So we don't really know what's gonna happen. We're estimating at this point. We also, some of these are pretty far out to be able to get a grant. You're not gonna find a grant that's eligible for 2031. So another thing we're looking at is we wanna be able to get grants for some of these so that we can have openings for local streets and other projects that we wanna do that we can't cover with grant projects. So of these 7 locations, from the city, we're investing $7.6 million. The Marquette Tifa is giving us another $1 million. We have $5.4 million already in the projects in the next few years. And that's through, I think, we have grants all the way up through 2028 right now. And so our 6-year future outlook is $24 million. And then I have these maps, which obviously they're hard to see on the screen, but this presentation will be online, so you'll be able to look at it and see everything. This is split out by the wards, if you can see the outlines of all the wards. The map on the left is for 2025, and that shows all our projects in purple lines. And then the one on the right has all our projects in blue lines. And if you go through and look, we actually do, in the 7 years, have a project, at least one project in every ward. So we do look at that and make sure we're spreading it out through the city the best we can. And that was all I had. And, oh, I'm sorry, I did attach the maps for you, but they're online, so.
All right, Commissioner McCoakley first.
Thank you. Thank you for setting this up also. I do think it's important that we do get information on the streets as often as possible, and it's just good information. You mentioned a couple times Liberty and Independence Bridge. What does the city have to do with those bridges now that
We still own them, but Bay City Bridge Partners pays to do the maintenance and any kind of repairs, that kind of thing. So we don't actually have to invest, we get reimbursed for everything for those. But we do still own them as an asset.
Yes, I understand that.
So in our asset management plan, we still have to have our plan for what we're gonna be doing to maintain those bridges, you know, construction-wise and maintenance and repairs. We still have to have that, and Bay City Bridge Partners basically does that for us, but we have to turn that into the state because we still own those bridges.
Okay. These maps, are these current maps?
I believe up through last year.
Okay. I see Johnson Street is in the orange, and I know that's been done twice.
Right, yeah, we have obviously done projects since. We've had some turnover, so I don't think we got any Paiser ratings last year. We do them every 2 years, so we've got to catch up as soon as we can hire another assistant engineer, so.
And with your projects this year, are we maxed out on what we can do, or is there an opportunity to add another project?
We're using every bit of our funding, and a lot of that has to go towards our grants. You know, for example, Henry Street's $4 or $5 million, and we're getting a grant for 80% of that. We still have to come up with 20% out of our budget, but so that ties up some of our money, but we get that much more through the grant. So that's kind of part of it is we have $2 million, and that has to count towards our match money as well. We've been pretty successful with getting grants, but you know, we're trying to do what we can. We were able to use some of our local streets funds this year, and that's why I'm hoping in these next few years we're able to get something and free up to be able to add projects.
Say, for example, we did have the funding to do a neighborhood street. Mm-hmm. Would the city be able to incorporate that, get us a bid on it, and be able to do it?
Yes. It will take some time. If it's one that we've already done a scope on, or it doesn't have utilities under it, or you know, we don't have traffic problems. There's a lot of different issues, what the condition is, how long it would take to design it and construct it. But if we did have the funds, we would absolutely put that towards local streets.
Okay, so we can get some done if we have the funds.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
what I'm hoping for, is to be able to get grants to cover some of our committed projects so that we can use those for other projects.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, we have some money put away to work on some neighborhood streets, so we'll talk about that.
Oh, okay.
All right, you all set, Commissioner?
Yeah, I think I am. Thank you. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hilliker.
Okay, so we are currently at a 3 rating right now. How many years have we been at a 3 rating?
We actually did improve over 2 years ago. I think we were at a 2.7. But we we finished up Winona. We did a lot of projects, and they were low-cost projects that brought our PASER score up. So it did go up a little bit.
Okay, that's fair. I feel like we get one of these at least every year, and I just feel like we've gotten the same one. It's like, okay, we're still not there.
We're not moving.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. With $2 million a year, we're not. And, we've gotten grants to substitute with that. So we're actually investing close to that $6 million that we would have to do because we've been able to get grants with it.
That was going to be my next thing. I was just looking at it. It was
hovering.
nice to get this with the budget because I was able to kind of compare, and it does look like we have around 7 million in there. I mean, some of that includes like equipment costs, which wouldn't be in this, but just looking at some of our breakdown here, it does look like we're investing more, but it doesn't quite reach that 11 mil mark to raise us up. So
No, not even. And, some of what you're seeing is, if you're looking at the expenses, the revenue shows that it's being paid back because we've got grants for it. So it looks like it's all that, but it does balance out because of the grants like that.
Okay, so, I know we can only do what we can do, and we are attempting, but I would like to try to see, even if it's a pipe dream of what it is that we need to try to do and what it is we need to get there to try to raise it up a little bit faster than what it is, because I feel like we just continuously are at the 3. So I'd like to see something more, and I think it's great when we're talking about this budget too, to kind of talk about what we need to do.
And we do have our full asset management plan, the strategy, all of that online. It's hard to cover, and I'm trying to get it all condensed in a short amount of time and cover everything. So, if you want to get more in detail, it does describe a lot of what we're doing through there.
Commissioner DeWitt.
Hi, thank you. I requested these this morning. I'm like, oh, this would be great to look at while I'm
Again,
doing
like
this.
Marty said, our GIS guy is awesome.
My first one was the question about the signals, because I saw on the plan that we have Washington Street's going to be done. Would that include removing those the signals that are currently flashing that we have, at my recollection, no plan on restarting?
We have removed 2 of those already. The 2 on Woodside at Grant, and Grant we removed last year, Lincoln we removed this year, and that greatly helps with our maintenance costs as well. But we do look at all those beforehand to make sure that we don't still need a signal there. We've also removed 1 on Madison last year, so we are going through and looking at those to see what we can do, where we can upgrade, where we need to replace, and what we can remove.
Because from my understanding, most of the signals in the city are actually under state jurisdiction. Most of the active ones are actually state ones, so we have less control over those in the end, right?
No, we don't have any control over those. If you do have questions, I can get answers from MDOT. We work very closely with MDOT signals, that kind of thing, and I was trained by MDOT in signals, so I can definitely get answers if you guys have questions. We do get a lot of questions. Sometimes I just send you to MDOT and let them answer, but they're wonderful about it. I've already talked to them, especially with the bridges and that kind of thing, and they're ready to take your questions, so.
All right, that kind of leads into the next one about the annual costs and using the CPM. Have we seen a return on our CPM costs with the change since we started implementing this and doing the routine maintenance? Have we seen the cost per mile not go up as high as would have if it was based on regular inflation? Because I know the savings is not enough for us to drop the cost, but have we seen the increase start to stagnate a little bit?
It's only been a few years that we've done it. Just before I got here, I know they spent a lot of money doing a lot of asphalt overlays on pavement that wasn't great, and then it didn't last. So this is something I did get from MDOT, this kind of strategy, but now the state requires it anyway. I think part of the reason that we did go up a little bit from the 2.7 before is because we're able to throw more of those in there. So we're bringing some of our fair pavement up to good pavement. So we are increasing some of that by that. I think we'll be able to see a pretty good difference in the next 5 years.
And then this is more of a what if. I know there are a lot of streets in this town that have no addresses or utilities facing them, and actually two of the blocks are in my ward. They've already been turned to dirt roads. This is Webster between 26th and 28th, back on the backside of Baycast. Are there other streets in town that would likely go to that, and how does that affect your guys'?
Would go to what?
So those streets used to be paved, and now they are crushed dirt, and there's no utilities there.
They're
so
going to
there's
go
less
back
risk.
and pave those sections. The only place we have non-paved is going to be on like a cul-de-sac or something. So they had a lot of problems with that. So that was part of our streets department would go through and kind of mill that out so that we had something smooth. And then when the weather is better, they'll go in and put pavement on top.
Okay, because I know those two blocks have been crushed dirt for a decent amount of time, but I know there's nothing there, so the incentive for, like, if it was in front of a house is lower than that. But I just want to know if that was a strategy that's going to be implied elsewhere throughout the city if there is no access from people normally.
No, we don't purposely turn anything to gravel, but, you know, sometimes the pavement gets that bad that that's basically what it goes to. And, you know, like I said, we can only go so far with things, but we do look at that.
Okay, that's about all I had for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Charlebois.
Yes, did we buy a camera for looking at sewer lines? I thought I saw that recently.
We used to have a camera.
We do.
I think we allocated money, maybe we didn't buy it yet.
We do have a camera. Oh, it's on its way.
Okay. I was just, it seems like looking at the surface is the easy part. How do you determine what's underneath? Do you know the age of the pipes underneath by records, or will this camera help find like collapsing sewer lines, et cetera?
So yes to a lot of those. The cameras do help. They did have another camera in the past. You know, sometimes they had other things going through there. The cameras look at what's there right now, which is fantastic. And it actually tells you where you are. Those things are awesome. But we also have all of our utilities in GIS. So if we go in and we look at a section, we can click on a section of water main, and it's going to tell us.
Sorry, what's GIS? Enlighten me.
It's a graphic informational system. So it's like a map.
All the stuff's in there.
It's map, but you can go into things and it has all the information attached to it. So when you go to a water main and you click on it, it's going to tell you what the material is, what the age is. You know, you can look and see if there's water. We've got areas where we can do maps that show where the water main breaks are. We have so much in this system. Even our soil borings, you can go through and look at where the soil borings are. So we do have a very good inventory of what we have in there.
Are we still repairing sewer lines with, I don't know if it's an epoxy system or where you can go in and reinforce it before it collapses? Are we still doing that?
They still do have a sewer lining project, yeah,
Okay,
program.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Runberg.
Most of my questions are already answered, but first off, thank you for putting this together. This actually helps quite a bit. But I do have one remaining question. I understand, and this is at the risk of sounding like I know what I'm talking about, the Jenny and Thomas are MDOT trunk lines.
Correct.
And are we still in regular communication with MDOT as far as now that, especially now that Lafayette's closed, traffic's obviously shifted. I know we have to prioritize the Jenny and Thomas traffic, but I had a resident that was concerned about the length or the duration of the signal on Winona, heading north or south, one of the two directions. Are we doing regular updates with MDOT as traffic patterns shift? Or?
Yes. I worked for MDOT for like 13 years, so most of the people in the region of the Bay City office I've known for a long time. I do regularly text, call, and email with the TSC manager over there. their signals, okay, so my husband's a signals engineer, so I do have regular, we'll call them conversations about them. Like I said, I've gone through the trainings too, so we do have, I mean, we've actually, I know the situation coming out of Saginaw across McKinley and 7th in the evening. That's a really bad intersection. We've actually sat there and brainstormed some of these things. So they are actively working through here. They do have signal upgrades. They've done some. They're waiting on materials and parts to do some more. They're working on new timing for everything. They are trying to get PED push buttons, so pedestrian push buttons. And not to go real in depth, but a lot of the time you have to wait really long is because the signal has to allow someone to walk across at 3 feet per minute. So, or per second. So you have to have so much time for somebody to be able to cross the road. So if you're talking, you know, Woodside, it's really wide. So Thomas and Jenny, they have to have that much time there. So that does end up leaving you where you feel like, oh my goodness, nobody's even coming. So once they put these in, they'll be able to run a different pattern. So as long as nobody touches or hits that button, it can cut it back a little bit. So they're trying to do that. They do realize that, so MDOT has to have a certain level of service on their trunk line. So that means the city's side streets get less. And so we're doing what we can to try to balance that out the best we can. And so they are working on doing different things to maybe make all that work better.
I appreciate it, and also thank you for that four-way stop on, Marquette and State Street. That's already saved my life at least once, so
Good. That's what we want to see.
that's all.
All right. Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for what you do. Happy to hear the Camaro analogy from this side of things. I just wanted to ask real quick, I see that on the 2025 list, you have 3 of my streets that are especially crummy. We've got 16th, 21st, and Van Buren. So with Van Buren, there's only, 19th through 21st Street, that portion of it. I'm just wondering what informed it being that small, because that street, basically south of Columbus, you could throw the whole street away. It's a mess.
So I had a set amount of money. We had a HUD grant, we had some ARPA funding left, and then we had a little bit left from our streets funds that I was able to put into local streets. So I had a total amount. We had to keep it in a certain census tract for low to moderate income. And basically what I did was, this was like 80% low to moderate, and I took the worst PACER ratings. So I ended up, Van Buren's pretty close to the edge of that, so I had to get the other ones in, and Van Buren, that's as much as I could get of that.
Gotcha. So you took the absolute worst portion of Van Buren, is what you're saying.
Right, I looked at all the 1 PACERs and said, how much of this can I do? Can I move to a 2? So.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
I'm wondering, are you thinking at any time in the past 10 years, I have not seen any work done from McKinley, the whole block from McKinley around 11th Street in Jackson to Columbus to Grant Street. You know, that whole little circle there, I mean, we can't even drive the side street. Jackson to 9th Street back to Van Buren. I mean, it's so bad you're ready to drop into a sinkhole. We're getting patched. That's what we get. We get patched with that asphalt or whatever you call it, and 2 weeks later it rains, it's gone. So I'm just wondering, why hasn't it been done? And I do see Jackson all the time, and I do see that in the 3rd Ward you always say, hey, we did do something in the 3rd Ward. It's all the way up on Bernie Street, or it's all the way the other way on the other side of Columbus. And so I'm just wondering, we got a problem here with that area, and we need to get some of those side streets done. So, I'm wondering, when are those going to be on the list? Even if it's, that little block, Jackson and Van Buren, those two streets in between 11th and 10th.
We do look at every single piece of road every 2 years. Like I said, we missed last year because of turnover. We look at every single street, and we do rate them all. We have a lot of areas that are that bad, all through the city. We look at that really closely, and like I said, we've got a lot of things that we look at, and the first thing we look at is pavement condition. It all depends on what kind of funding we have. When the roads are that bad, all we can really do is reconstruct them, and that's $4 million for a mile. So if you're only talking, you're talking a half a mile by the time you do a loop, that's our whole budget for the year. So it's all about trying to find the money and doing all the priorities that we had in the plan.
Okay, so when we do get the CDBG block grant money, it says we have the money for the sidewalks. And it's always, we can use that money for sidewalks and streets, so have you. And what bothers me is that it's always sidewalk work. I'm just, it just bogs me down because it's for sidewalks and streets. There's no reason to keep doing sidewalks, curbs, when you can use that money for the streets. And I'm just not, I really wish that we could utilize that money for the streets instead of doing curbs and patching the sidewalk. So I'm hoping.
Those 4 local projects that we're doing, a majority of it coming from CDBG money on the streets.
Last year or this year, every year, it has been for the streets. Not the streets, but the sidewalks. We've went through this over and over again. So could you please have some paperwork on my desk about what the CDBG money is being spent for the sidewalks for the past couple years? I would like to see that, and I'd like the commission to see that.
Commissioner, it's actually not her department, the CBG, just so you know.
Well, it's not about the CDBG money. It's about the streets and sidewalks that her department, like she's talking about right now with the streets and sidewalks.
Sure, but she's not in charge of that department. She can,
I know that. I'm just saying, like this map right here, what she has right here, the graph. I just wanted to.
There is community development has a report that shows everything that they did with their CDBG funding. I just put together projects that they asked for.
Yeah, so that's what really, that's what I really wanted, was to see the last time when we did this last year, and you had the streets on it. What I would like is a copy of this from last year that we did, and I'd like to see if that area has ever been listed on one of these. If I could get that, please.
and I do want to clarify, you have to ask the city manager. You cannot direct city staff to do anything, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I had a couple questions. So the 31% of the poor light, the street lights, are those checks more frequently because we have a concern about those, or how do we address that?
We do, I probably didn't mention that. The bridges we have to do every 2 years. The signals we have evaluated by a signal electrician company, and they come in every year and do an audit. They look at everything on all of them. And so that's why some things change. If they come in, that's why we did that last minute project at 6th and Washington a couple years ago, was because they came in and said, oh, look, this pole is moving, the signal's dropping, and we've seen a big change. We're like, okay, we've got to move what we planned and move it over there. So it does help us put together a program that we know you know, this one's in this condition, we probably need to do something with that in the next 2 years, or this one's in this condition. So we do get a very detailed report from them every year.
Okay, I don't want residents to be concerned that a light's gonna drop on them. We're
Nope,
regularly
we keep track of those.
You did mention 9% of our local taxes go towards streets. I know at one point it was a couple 100,000, and maybe George maybe it's higher than looking at those numbers, but it's not a huge number of tax dollars, of property. Because I get that question a lot, like all my tax dollars, why am I giving you tax dollars is not getting spent on streets?
We actually are not using any tax dollars for streets currently. Nothing in the budget.
So we do not use any property tax dollars collected from homeowners on streets? Okay, well, that's okay. I thought we used a small amount even, but we don't. So no property taxes go towards streets, is what you're saying?
Past years, we've used some, but not currently.
Okay, but not currently. Okay, well, thank you. That's new information to me.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. A little bit of an update, too, on the state. I've been getting some updates. They are negotiating on the state level. It came out of the House, a $3 billion package on local street funding. So they're moving it forward. The question is, we don't have a state senator right now. We know that. We passed that resolution. It has to come out of the Senate side to advocate, too, for the streets. And the governor has her own idea on the streets. So it's not a done deal, but they're all talking about a $3 billion number. The conversation was we could potentially see up to doubling our Act 51 dollars, which would put us in the $4 or $5 million range. The question is how long that would go for. But so I suggest advocating on that level, folks, if we want to see more street dollars come in, aside from a millage proposal. I do get questioned a lot about how we fill potholes. There were some suggestions that the Dow makes a product that you fill in the pothole for, and I know it's not quite your department, but maybe there's some, and then you've put in the cold patch or the hot patch or whatever we do. Maybe could be some explanation of that, because I do get that question a lot.
I do know that they look at a lot of different products. We get a lot of, emails from different products and things like that, but Josh would be better to answer that.
As far as any kind of pothole repairs, there's a mix of repairs that take place with potholes. So during this time of the year, during freezing weather, et cetera, before the plants open up, we use a product called cold patch. That's what typically you see gets slung into the holes, and at times will come out. Cold patch is a temporary, very temporary maneuver to try to keep whatever holes that are there from damaging vehicles, et cetera. Once the plants open up, then we will start utilizing hot patch asphalt, the same material that they utilize in the large asphalt trailers. Has a better adhesion factor, is able to stick to the road material. Part of the issue, frankly, that we have is more of an issue with our roads is shaling. So we don't, although they're holes and they're annoying, irritating, they're not deep enough to get good adhesion with the asphalt product, whether it's cold patch or hot patch. So, when we have the shaling factor, the alligator, where a chunk of asphalt comes up and it's 1.5 inches or 1 inch or 2 inch, what is left behind, the base material, is not enough for us to actually have good adhesion, for the patch. As far as the product you're describing, I'm not exactly familiar with this product. We have looked at other products. We did purchase a mastic machine last year, which we've utilized on a few of our city streets, and we'll continue to utilize on several more. So mastic is an elastomer product that acts very similarly to a crack sealer, but is a thicker material and is actually able to fill wider gaps. so we get much better, much better longevity out the roadway. So it's a mix of, different fixes, again, until that funding comes along that we can start making effective repairs, to our locals. We're going to continue to do everything we can to hold them together.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, a resident called me, he said there's a spray material that Dow makes, it seals it up so water doesn't permeate any longer. And but I don't,
It could be mastic, they're describing.
okay, maybe that's what it is, yeah.
Or it's emulsion, so before we utilize, typically in the summer, before we put down hot patch, we'll spray an emulsion into the hole that helps the patch adhere to the old asphalt or base. That could be what they were describing. That's not a Dow product, it's from Bitmat, but, could be in the same vicinity. It could be what they're talking about.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And then the last I have, thank you, that 7th and McKinley stretch on Saginaw, there's parking there. Is there some conversations around not having that parking there?
That's another conversation we're having. Actually, like I said, we've looked at that quite a bit. MDOT their signals department has proposed if we were able to take away the parking, they're looking at what impact that would have. Would it be wide enough for us to be able to get better storage in that area? Is it something, right now we can't put a left turn signal in because that wouldn't actually work, it would make it worse. So we're looking at options for that. Like I said, the signals drew something up. I'm waiting on their traffic and safety and operations to review that before I can actually say that MDOT will go for it.
All right. I know Barney's Bakery is going in there, so I know they might have an issue with it, but I know that it might cause more traffic there. So, all right. Thank you. Anything else? Thank you very much, Ms. Phelps.
Thank you.
All right. Wow. Next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Commissioner DeWitt.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Is there a second? Commissioner Hilliker.
Second.
All right. Do any members of the commission wish to add an item to the agenda? Commissioner DeWitt.
Resolution to add for us to vote to approve opening the application period for Stephen Prince's first ward seat.
We don't need to actually do
You don't need a vote for that. You just need an action call for that.
You can, during your remarks of the commission, you can just direct me to do
I just
that.
wanted to make sure so we don't accidentally miss it. Thank you.
No, you won't.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Will the clerk please call the roll on adoption of the agenda?
Commissioner Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
Hilliker. Yes. DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
A yes.
Agenda passes. Next order of business is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to make a change to the consent agenda? Commissioner Tenney? Oh.
Yes, thank you for the chair, to the chair. I'd like to pull number 5, please.
Just a quick synopsis to make sure we have the right one.
Sure, it's the city manager's recommendation for an ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Parks and Rec. Good enough?
Commissioner Hilliker.
Communication number 7, the action plan for system improvements for the 26th Street substation.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, next order of business calls for public input on the consent agenda. This is the opportunity for citizens to remove an item from the consent for consideration on the regular agenda. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a change, please come to the microphone, print your name on the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record, and the item you wish to have considered on the regular agenda. Seeing no one come forward, is there a motion on the consent agenda? Commissioner Hilliker.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Coakley.
Second.
Will Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the consent agenda?
Commissioner Bernie Obershaw,
Yes.
Tenney,
Yes.
Hilliker,
Yes.
DeWitt,
Yes.
Rumberg,
Yes.
Charlebois,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
8 yes.
Consent agenda has been approved. Next item is the remarks of the mayor and commission. Before I turn it over to the commission, I do have just a quick thing. I know last few meetings it's been pretty passionate comments and expressions. And so, you know, I've received quite a few phone calls about concerns about, you know, comments being made, both by commission and the public. We here try to adhere to the First Amendment, give people the opportunity to express themselves, to critique this body. I think, you know, it's a right of every citizen. But my opinion, just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. And I just ask people to reflect on that. And hopefully, you know, it's a matter of just having respect. And so, you know, we do ask, there is this sheet that's up on the podium. You know, we ask people to be respectful when addressing this body. And we do remind people that it's a one-way communication, that when folks are at public input, it is a one-way communication, so the mayor and the commissioners can't address your questions at that time. So the way it's currently structured. And so we ask folks to meet with your commissioners and myself if you do have questions after the meeting, and then folks have 5 minutes to speak, and then we do ask, make sure you sign and print your name you sign in. So hopefully, you know, going forward, we respect those things together. I do want to comment, the United Way Day of Caring is coming up this Friday. If you haven't signed up, I don't know if they still have openings, but there'll be plenty of sites throughout the community. So look for those being completed. Lots of great projects from Winona Park. I know they've gone to Carroll Park and a lot of different sites throughout the community for cleanup. So if you see a bunch of people with rakes and shovels, they're out there working to make a difference in the community. So open up to commissioners. Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you to the chair. Just want to, again, shed light on it being Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. A couple of different ways to support folks in the neurodivergent community locally is I tagged my friend and neighbor who his son is on the autism spectrum, and he is selling these shirts. He also has an ice cream cart. And a couple of other micro enterprises, so that's pretty cool. Also, I learned when I couldn't make it to a Do Art show that you can actually purchase their work online, and they support a number of individuals with disabilities in the community. Shout out to them. On another note that's related, there have been some disparaging remarks on a national level about folks in the autism community. A lot of folks know that I'm a social worker in my day job in a big system. What you may not know is that I cut my social work teeth working at a small nonprofit. I've been privileged enough to do something so cool as teaching a young man with autism how to drive. So folks with autism are capable of so many tremendous things, even the people who are nonverbal in their communication styles. So again, just want to celebrate neurodivergence. Also, it's Arab American Heritage Month, and Michigan is home to the most Arabs outside of the Middle East, so want to celebrate diversity in that way as well. And finally, I want to give a shout out to the Human Relations Committee who just met this week. They meet in another quarter. If you have complaints that might be appropriate for their department, or you're interested in just sitting in a public meeting, Google Human Relations Committee Base City, and that should pop up. And I'm out of breath. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Yes, I would like to address the elephant in the room. I received a letter the day before our Commissioner Prince left this chamber floor. And I got a call from the news. And the letter stated Girard versus Bernie. I would like to know, Mayor Girard, why would you have a letter sent to me from the campaign finance, did you, for me spending $189 on the campaign trail, and you wanted me to be prosecuted for $189 because I wanted to sit on the floor for the people? I'd like to know, and you to tell the people, why would you want me to be fined for spending $189 to sit on this floor, to possibly be prosecuted federally and to go to jail? Why did you do that?
Commissioner Burney. Unfortunately violated Campaign Finance Act, and so I filed that paperwork before the election, and the state just got around to reviewing it and said you were guilty, and so that's for you to take care of. I didn't make any further comments, but they found you guilty, and so I don't know, that's for you to take care of.
They did not find me guilty. You would not even send a rebuttal back, Mayor. You would not answer back because I spent $189. I didn't try to steal the seat from you, Mayor. I wanted to sit to fight for the people. And when I found out that Commissioner Prince's brother sat on the canvassing seat that were going to handle this to prosecute me, and I wrote in on the 8th, and I wrote back and sent a receipt for $189 for the canvassing, for them not to find me guilty of spending that $189. April 8th, and the news called to interview me, Prince all of a sudden resigned on the 9th. I would like to know, why did you do that? To prosecute me over $189 to sit in a seat that you're already sitting in?
So
If you're
again,
for the people,
again,
why would you do that?
Commissioner, this was before the election.
I'm done with that, but I wanted to.
No, apparently you wanted, again, you violated campaign finance law. I pointed it out to the state. The state said you did violate. You received the letter because they made the determination. If you want to dredge it out publicly, that's fine, but you were in violation of 2 or 3 different acts of campaign finance. You didn't file the proper reports to run for the office, and I just sent it to the state, and the state made a determination. So
If they determined it was $189, how petty can you be? The news wouldn't
there's
even
more to that. So if you want to release the document to the public, go
I
for it.
did, and the news said, Mayor Girard, it was so ridiculous that you sent it to the news. The news called me, WNEM News. They laughed at you. They said, Commissioner Bernie Obershaw, we can't believe he would send this to the news. We can't believe we can't even use the story. Shame on you.
Well, my guess is
Shame
it'll come out tonight.
on you.
It will be a
Fight
story
for
now.
the
Thank you.
people. Fight for the people. That's what you sit there for. Fight for the people, not pettiness, not social media to boost yourself. Fight for the people. Worry about the veto that you did, and
Okay,
worry about the funding that
Are
you
you all
said
set,
you did it
Commissioner?
for.
Are you all set?
I'm done.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner DeWitt.
Okay, I have a small list. First one, this is going to be my request to open up the nomination window for first ward seat effective as soon as we can. It's going to be a 30-day opening. For anyone who's here on the commission.
One second, it's 45.
It's 45-day open?
It's
Okay,
45.
I thought it was within 45 we had to have it ready, not 45.
No, 45 days is the posting.
Perfect, and 45 days of opening, that's good. If I could have anyone here, if they have ideas or options that they want to work at to try to improve the process for the interview that we have up front here at the end of the application period for us to make a decision. I know there was some chatter that we've had about, at least with me, that the questions didn't seem like very good at helping understand what people's intentions were or how what they actually might have ideas for. So if we have ideas, please let's try to workshop this now while we have the time so we can have them ready for the applicants in time for the interview. Next is for the Public Safety Infrastructure Subcommittee. I'm asking for a third person to step up and maybe start meeting at the end of May. I was informed that that group had not met yet, and I'd like to have the two that are still here and a third to start a meeting, because I mean we got our budgets today, so now it's a perfect time to start figuring that out. On the same vein, I'm going to ask through the manager to the mayor, infrastructure subcommittee that you used to sit on. Is there a list of neighborhood or neighborhood-ish streets that are ready or that were talked about or anything like that?
Yes, Ms. Phelps she was generating a regular report. So some of the data that we saw tonight was on that report. So I guess I assume that committee kind of died with the former, most of the commissioners that were on it are no longer here, so.
And Ms. Phillips does update that report, so we can get that out to you.
Okay, yeah, because I know we would want to at least look at how we can possibly use some funding we have held, at least see what we can get it, because I can name 3 streets that touch the 6th Ward that I've gotten comments about we need to fix these ASAP, and they're major streets, but they're not state streets, so we can't get grants for them for the most part. So I have people asking me about those. Also asking for the commission as a whole, if you go through the commission rules, if you see anything you want to make changes to, we did not actually make any real changes this term. If you have any, please send them, and we can start going through. I'll start going through and drafting up changes and noting what's going on, so we can see if we have any consensus on what we want to update to make that more efficient. And then with the budget out, please look over it. I know most of us here are new and it may be difficult, but please look over it. Please ask questions. If you have a funding priority that you think you can figure out where the money can come from, ask if that's even feasible or something you can work on, because now is our chance to make an impact, and our best impact is before we pass the budget instead of afterwards, where we have to make massive changes to the agenda. And then my last one for right now is County Mental Health Board. I was reached out by a resident who is a social worker, and they're talking about wanting to try to get involved and do some sort of transition house for people who are meeting regularly, either people who are post-addiction or are just somebody who needs therapy, and like getting them stabilized housing within the city. But I know that's controlled by at the county level, mostly the funding for that. Have we gotten any contact from anyone about working in the city to try to have like not really transitional home, but it's like a facility for that? Nothing yet? Okay. Okay, I'll go back to my person and start working from there then. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Coakley.
Just wanted to take the opportunity to remind everybody about Earth Day coming up this Saturday. The city has 2 locations, the main one on Water Street, right between Johnson, and second one is at Defoe Park in the parking lot there. I believe there's going to be 4 dumpsters there set for pickup.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, I was trying to find the specific section in the ordinances, but to the city manager, I know I only asked you about it on Friday, so I'm not expecting there to be an answer yet, but I just wanted to remind you, if we can take a look at the ordinances regarding marijuana retailer hours of operation.
Yep, we're already going to draft the amendment to the ordinance for the next meeting, for the first reading.
Perfect,
So,
thank you.
We're all set there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, does the manager have any comments? Now that the one commissioner stole.
As Commissioner DeWitt stated, the budget book is in front of you, so I just want to let everybody know that this is, once again, a balanced budget that's been presented to you. So if you do have changes or you have questions, please send them in to George and myself ahead of time. We can always discuss them in the public meetings as well, but if you have a simple question about the budget, just let us know. Commissioner DeWitt talked about if you have priorities, you just, like he said, you have to remember that it's balanced at this point, so if you are making changes, you have to take it from somewhere else. So we'll need to have that information as well. We are going to have budget hearings on May 5th, May 19th, and June 2nd at our regularly scheduled meetings. We have started in the past a half hour earlier. We don't have to. We can still do it at 6 o'clock. I guess if there's opposition to starting at 5:30, I guess let me know if that's an issue from anybody. You don't have an issue? Anybody? No? Okay. If we could start early, that gives us time. The first night we'll go over the general fund, and from there we'll go over the special funds and then the utility accounts on the other two meetings. If we need more, then we'll schedule it then. Earth Day, Commissioner Coakley did talk about that. We are going to have Earth Day. We have, like he said, the recycle drop-off, and then we have our dump your junk function that's out on Marquette. We have a new thing that we added this year, and it's called Recycle Your Books. So we're also taking in books, and when we get those books, we are going to donate those throughout the community in the free library sharing boxes. So I thought that was a really good addition that our staff came up with to add. And then also, I just wanted to give you an FYI. We did commit to Lake Huron Forever. Last year, we came out as a forever community, and we had asked our sister city in Goderich, in Ontario, to join us in that Lake Huron Forever community, and they recently did. So we're happy to say that our sister city also took the pledge to bolster our outgoing efforts to plant trees, manage stormwater, and restore native ecosystems across the Bay Area. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Next order of business calls for public input. Under the rules of the City Commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Coakley will serve as timekeeper. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the commission regarding any agenda item or any other matter. If anybody wishes to address the commission, please come forward, print your name and address on the registration sheet for the record. And again, there's like a little guideline up there. Thank you.
Hi, Lori Ward, 800 Germania. On Sunday, this is going to be quick, I was driving across the Betts Bridge, and there was a protest on the bridge. And I was just concerned for people's safety. There may be over 20 people with signs and, at the top of the bridge on the sidewalk. But there was probably, almost 2 fender benders just because people were rubbernecking and braking. You don't expect to see a big group of people on the bridge chanting and waving signs around. So just wondered if there was an ordinance about protesting on the bridge.
Thank you. If you want to stay afterwards, if you'd like to ask that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Cosley, 208 West Smith Street. We're a city that is divided by bridges. This makes us unique when placing fire stations, keeping in mind that response time matters. Our stations were built and placed in the 4 corners of the city, South End, Center Avenue area, Dean Street, and because of the railroad tracks, Transit Street. These were put where they are on purpose, to be able to reach citizens with short response times. Keeping all 4 stations up and running is essential for the safety of all our people. Taking any one of them away puts the people in that area at risk for both medical and fire response times. When my friend had an incident, firefighters came from just down the street who saved the life of that person. There was nothing for the ambulance to do once they arrived. The residents of the north end of the city are currently being put at risk without Station 5. Our public safety is currently broken. On March 3rd, a resolution was unanimously passed to get quotes for the repairs to the building. This commission obviously sees the need and cares about the people in this area. The resolution needs to be addressed. Enough time has gone by to get those votes. The lives of the elderly and all the taxpayers in the north end of your city are at risk. Please don't wait for someone to die to move on this. Building a new main branch would not solve this problem, especially since the current main branch is serving its role as intended. It would create a new problem. How would we pay for that? Also, thank you to Commissioner DeWitt for moving ahead on the Public Safety Commission. That's another thing that was brought up. We need to figure out how to set aside enough money for repairs for our fire stations. We have many older residents that depend on it for medical emergencies. It's very sad to see that not much has been done. So I'm asking you tonight to act on the resolution now, to get Station 5 back open so that part of our city can mend, and to get the Public Safety Committee going now, and I see that you are, and I do appreciate that. There is a problem with not having enough money to repair our fire stations. And lastly, to really look closely at the budget. Make sure that there is enough money in there for the fire stations. And lastly, to maybe shift money for the number one priority in our city, public safety. Thanks for all you have already begun. The citizens you represent in all of the wards look forward to what you will accomplish. We need to get this done now. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we need that. Okay, next. Oh, one more.
Hello, everybody. My name's Jeff Reed, 409 Fillmore Place, Bay City, Michigan, born and raised. I'm here to talk about the Bay City Bridge Partners tonight. Somebody commented about protests being on the bridge. They're within their legal rights. It's the motorists responsible to keep their vehicles under control and pay attention to what they're doing. But what I wanted to talk about was the boycott. And I brought a couple visual aids with me today. The boycott against the Bay City Bridge Partners is going very well. A lot of citizens are not happy about it, and that's what we have to do. If we boycott the Bay City Bridge Partners, yes, sir. If we all come together and continue with this boycott, we will bankrupt the Bay City Bridge Partners. And in order to do that, you need to close your accounts and remove your transponders. Don't give them your money. It's that simple. They are not in bed with the state of Michigan yet, which is a good thing. This is just a little reminder. This is one of them. They can't suspend your driver's license or not allow you to get your tabs renewed. So, and that's a fact. If I say something up here that's not true, please fact check me. Okay, I asked a question, a couple questions, and I said I was going to have some questions for you. At the last meeting, I wasn't able to make it because I was sick. But I never got the answer to that question. My commissioner isn't here with us anymore, but my question was, and it's simple. My question is, number one, how much money have we spent on attorney's fees for the Bay City Bridge Partner issue? And that would be from the time that they said they were going to double the fees and made all that mess. And then the other question is, how much money have we spent for city staff regarding this Bay City Bridge Partner issue? They're costing us a lot of money. So it's very simple. I'll hold this up here. It says attorney fees here. Once we know that number, we can write that down. And then city staff, how much money we've spent on city staff so far dealing with these bridge partners that are not good partners. Real quick, that $5 million, I've said it before, that needs to remain in the bank for the defense of the Bay City residents. Another question, did the Bay City Bridge Partners stop tolling on that bridge that isn't complete yet? There's barrels from one end to the other. And the reason I ask this question is because a Bangor Township resident showed me a bill they got in the mail, and it showed that they crossed that bridge, but there was no fee for crossing the bridge. It said $0. So have they stopped tolling since that lawsuit was filed against the Bay City Bridge Partners and the city of Bay City? As far as people being on the bridge protesting, I don't see a problem with it. They're on the sidewalk. They're completely within their rights. And then we talk about the bridge partners some more here. Bangor Township, I might be wrong, but the bridge partners said something ridiculous, like $600,000 for the Bangor Township to cross that bridge, their fleet. They do Meals on Wheels for like 1,000 people, 5 days a week. And the Bay City Bridge Partners won't even allow Meals for Wheels to cross those bridges to give our elderly, bring them food. Bay City Bridge Partners should be proud of themselves about that. Volunteer firemen, they can't even cross that bridge. If we call out for assistance and there's a volunteer fireman, he needs to cross.
Commissioner Runberg.
Move to provide the speaker 2 more minutes.
Commissioner Tenney.
Second.
Is there any objection? Speaker has 2 more minutes.
Thank you. Volunteer firemen, if they, if we call for help here in Bay City, they can't even cross. If they cross that bridge, they're going to get billed for it. Ambulance. It's my understanding that the ambulances aren't even, they have to pay as well. If somebody gets sick in Bangor and they need to come across the bridge to get to the hospital quick, Bay City Bridge Partners don't give a shit. They want their $5.50. The people of Bangor Township, I would suggest that you guys really get a hold of your representatives out there. This is like deal or no deal on television. Just tell them no deal. Don't cut any deals with the Bay City Bridge Partners. They've proven to us time and time again that all they do is lie. They have been lying to this city and lying to us citizens ever since the first day they walked into town. Bay City Bridge Partners are enjoying this when they see us disagreeing with each other and arguing in these chambers. They're loving it. But make no mistake about it, we the people of Bay City and our surrounding communities, we are boycotting these bridges. You can see it, and it is going to work. We just have to stick together, and we'll get through this. But we also need to get them in front of a judge. I still haven't heard anything if they violated this contract yet. Nobody wants to come out and say the last meeting was all top secret. But I would like these 2 questions answered, please, at the next meeting. This will be going, I think, on 4 weeks since I posed the question. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, next order of business calls for special orders. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
Special Order 1, Election Commission Officer, Vice President.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Burnt? So, is there a okay, so nomination, yes.
I want to nominate Rumberg for Vice President.
Okay, is there support? Commissioner Charlevoix?
I'll second it.
Okay, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. No, we don't? Okay, so congratulations, Commissioner Runberg, you're Vice President. Okay, next item. Regular agenda. So will the clerk read the next item?
Reports of Officers 5, City Manager recommending ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Parks and Recreation, Article 1, Section 78-4, adding prohibited activities within city parks. Recommendation received for first reading and refer to next meeting for second reading and possible adoption.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Hilliker.
Move to approve.
To receive.
Move to receive.
Is there a second? Commissioner Morris.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. We don't, what's that? Oh, discussion, I'm sorry. Commissioner DeWitt.
Okay. I had issues with this too. Just to the city manager, I guess. Has there been an issue with this in the past? The only times I could think this would be even an issue would be like during the Y Art Fest or 4th of July in Bigelow Park, and we don't have the extra man hours to go and look at every person who has a tent out looking at those.
Yeah, that's not really what we're looking for. There's been a recent issue, and I think Craig can probably come up and talk to this as well from the Parks Department. There's been, without calling out a particular business, somebody who wants to transport people set up shop in our parks to transport people back and forth. And so we had questions about that. And it goes a little bit deeper than that too, because the Coast Guard's involved in that because of the transferring of the number of people across the river and what have you. So we talked to the city attorney, and so this is where it's coming from. But I know there's other instances that Craig has.
Yeah, I mean, this would also, yeah, for like the special event stuff, that would all be covered on a special event permit, so that's already included getting a permit. But this would also come up with like soliciting for donations in the parks and stuff like that, so somebody can't just be in there saying they're trying to raise money to put something in the park without getting our approval first. Also, if we were ever to try to do like a charter service, like fishing service out of the marina, they would have to have a permit through us, not just lease a slip and do their business. So that's all this is for.
Okay, because I was reading this as we were going to go after the, because I know on Bigelow Park it's usually quite a party, but it's not very well overseen, so.
Yeah, we're not looking to do any of that, no.
All set, Commissioner?
That was my thing, yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Runberg.
Thank you. The concern I had with this, not that we have necessarily a lot of it, but there's always a possibility of it. Would this, the wording that's in there prohibit somebody from, let's say, feeding the homeless within the park?
No.
Okay.
There's nothing in there that would prohibit that at all.
Okay. I would say if there was something that would have prohibited that, I would like to see some avenue for a no-cost permit if it's something that's required kind of thing. So, okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Coakley.
A lot of times within the parks, especially down at Vets, with the tournaments and so stuff going on, I know there's occasion when the concession's not open and somebody may try to sell chips or stuff like that for fundraising for whatever team or organization is putting on said tournament.
That would probably fall under their permit that
Their
they
lease
have.
agreements
Yeah,
already,
they already
yeah.
have their agreement, so it would fall under that. So they'd be fine.
So that's Vets Park where they could just say they wanted somebody to come in and sell something there anyways,
Yeah, I
they're
mean,
okay?
Even if they did like a food truck, the food truck has to be licensed if they were bringing somebody in like that. And that's, I mean, we license those all the time. But if you're talking about, somebody's child or something coming around and selling something because they don't have concessions, that's covered all under their permit that they have already in place.
Yeah, this is specifically for, completely outside of a permit, just somebody wanting to come into the park and run their own business. They would have to, this forces them to have to get a permit of some sort.
But what I'm basically saying, if the concession stand is not open down there,
Right.
they want to sell hot dogs and chips aside from the concession stand just to make a few dollars for that said team or private organization.
I mean, if it was part of the like softball organization and part of their already lease agreement, that would probably fall under that. But yeah, if it is just somebody random wanting to sell stuff, yeah, it would require them.
So as long as the self, or whomever is.
If it's part of another agreement, then it's.
All right, very good, thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Tenney.
Yep, thank you. I'm wondering, does this prohibit, for lack of a better word, panhandling? We already have a panhandle ordinance in place, so that's already covered somewhere else in the Code of Ordinances. Fair enough. So another application that I could think of, similar to what my colleague from the second was asking, like I envision somebody trying to make a few extra dollars, grabbing a handful of glow sticks, going to the fireworks. Are we going to slap them with a $500 fine and give them a misdemeanor? I mean, this seems like an overreach.
We wouldn't have staff to do that kind of stuff
don't.
anyways. So.
This primarily is just somebody who, like he said, setting up in our marina, running a fishing charter, and making money off of the public property.
Or putting up signs to solicit donations for something that they want to put in the park, but they have never gotten permission to do that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Is this about stopping the water lily taxi service? Is this, because he has a free water service taxi. So, you know, I'm starting to think, because he wants to help the people that cannot afford to take the Bay City Bridge Partners. So I'm wondering, does this have something to do with that? Kind of hindering the water lily free services?
It wouldn't hinder it, it would just require them to get a permit. So it would just be to make sure it's on the up and up is all that would do.
Okay, do you work for the city?
Yes, sorry, I'm the parks manager.
Okay, so would this hinder them? Would it be, you know?
No, it wouldn't hinder it. I mean, people get permits all the time to do any special events or, I mean, technically a permit to have a wedding in a park or rent a pavilion. I mean, they're fairly simple paperwork. It's just to make sure we know about it and approve of it.
Has this something that because I've never heard of this before with us bringing this situation up since the Bay City Bridge Partners situation. So is this something new as of today or something that we just put on our agenda today that we're gonna, because of this small business that he has, something that he made up and, you know, thought of for
This
the
came up apparently a
community?
few years ago with another thing, and then it just kind of fizzled out. And so it was just, I literally went back for some other emails, found the wording from when they were trying to do it a few years ago, and just put that in place.
So it's really just a person trying to make a side hustle, so, you know, really make a living off of that.
There's not even any necessarily fees attached to this. I mean, the permits are completely separate. So, I mean, there's plenty of permits that we have waived fees on, and in general, the permits are fairly affordable. I mean, we don't charge much for permits in general. It's just so that we are aware of what's going on and people aren't just doing whatever they want in the parks.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Coakley.
How much is it permit?
Depends on the type of permit. I know, like, for weddings in the parks, they can be $200, but for special events, maybe $100. TJ might have better.
I was to say, I was just asking her about like vendor permits if somebody's selling something. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if this is passed, we would then put forward a fee structure for it to probably mimic that, where they have the option to do a day, a week, a year, so that if they are only going to be there. But this also doesn't include, you know, special events. They're going to have complete use of the parks, and that's already a whole separate thing. So if this is approved, we'll put through a fee structure that you would have to approve, like any other license and fee schedule.
So we would set the fees for the fees?
Yep, like I think our vendor is like $5 for a day, $40 for a year or something like that. It's not anything that's gonna deter a business.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner? The only other question I had, this would help make sure that there's proper liability insurance that we're covered. Is that
Correct.
a big part of this?
That's a big part of it, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any objection? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item of business.
Communication 7, action plan for system improvements for the 26th Street substation April update, recommendation receive.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Hilliker?
Move to receive.
Is there a second? Commissioner DeWitt?
Second.
Discussion, Commissioner Hilliker?
So firstly, thank you again for the report. Love seeing the project. We've gotten quite a few of these now, and it looks like we're going really good with the project. There was just one piece of it that I had questions on, and it was the 46 kV.
Yeah.
So,
Specific, or do you want me just to address it as a whole?
well, it looks like we are behind on the project. So do we have an estimated date on when we'd be able to, get that project? Do we have an updated date?
Yeah, so right now, we're officially not behind on it because the date doesn't go out until, July. However, and I've mentioned this in the past, we've looked at the project as a whole, and we've identified some other areas that if we are going to do work in there, we'd rather just do it all at once rather than try to, do multiple outages or affect that substation multiple times. So what we are in the process right now is we've contracted an engineering firm. We've indicated all of the high-level projects that we want to accomplish with it. They're in the process of drawing prints and everything from that. Once we have those in hand, we'll be able to identify an actual, completion date. What that'll do is allow us to figure out lead times on the parts and the materials. We are still in discussions right now if we are going to do that work ourselves or if we're going to contract it out with a third party. Depends on the amount of work and what type of other activities we have going on at the time. So at this point, we do not have a revised date, but we are working towards that.
Okay, I'm happy with knowing that there's progress working towards it, and I think that probably also addresses my other question, which was, I didn't see that in any of the budget that we just got. Is that something that you're planning for potentially next year? It sounds like we're still working on what it even looks like or the cost, so is it safe to say it's going to be probably more like 2026?
My envision right now is we have money in this current budget year that we're actually in right now. So all those parts and materials would be ordered before then. We are currently leaning more towards doing the work ourselves. So that would just be, using additional staff, so we wouldn't have to put any additional money in there for contractors. But we do have some money that might not be specifically called out for that we could use if we opted to go with a contractor for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Power in the south end's been great, so I have not received phone calls.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you. Any other business? Oh, we got a roll call vote on that.
Commissioner Tenney.
Yes.
Hilliker.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Yes.
And that passes, and that, is there one more? Okay, would the clerk please?
Regular agenda item number 1, Commissioner DeWitt's amendment to the social media policy for elected and appointed officials.
Is there a motion, Commissioner DeWitt?
Move to approve.
Is there a second, Commissioner Coakley?
Second.
Discussion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Well, when earlier this year, we had an issue in the chamber here, and I voted against the call for it because I wanted these rules to be more visible for the, especially the sergeant at arms, to at least be able to see a process through it instead of it being very much open to interpretation. So I feel that the way that this is revised will help lock that down a little bit so we can understand our process and also make it as transparent as possible. If you do have concerns about it, want to edit it again, please let me know or just bring it forward. I do not care if you want to make adjustments past this, but I just wanted to move this forward so that hopefully we can move on and have an actual process for any interpersonal issues we may have between us and the commission.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Hilliker.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, item passes. Any other business for us